There's this woman named Ellie Lobel. She's 42 years old, and she decided enough is enough. It's time for me to die. Her background was she was brilliant. She went to an Ivy League school. She had her PhD by 18. Hyper successful woman, crazy salary, but she came down with this mysterious illness. Every time she would go to the doctors would run a battery of tests and say, oh, you're low on this vitamin, you need more sunlight, and started affecting her career. And then she got this horrible divorce with her husband. And so she's raising her kids on her own. She's got this chronic illness, and it's getting worse. By this point, her kids have moved out of the house. And so she hired an end-of-life care person. And so she goes to this little Airbnb in this random town. She's met up with her end-of-life care person. And so they leave this house. It's a beautiful sunny day, and she's holding on to her end-of-life care person. And for a second, she stops and just stares out at this field, and she's taken with just how beautiful it is. But as she's staring at this field, she begins to hear a buzzing sound, and she looks above her and she sees there's an African killer bee. It came down and began stinging her, and she's practically immobile, and at the same time she's like screaming. Her end-of-life care person just turns and starts running, left her on the side of the road. She can't even walk, and this was not just one bee. There was a whole horde of African killer bees, and they stung her hundreds of times. They flew off, and she's just laying on the ground. And by this point, her end-of-life care person, who has completely abandoned her, now comes back, and he scoops her up, and as he's running with her, all she thinks to say is, don't take me to the hospital. Because at this point, she's like, this will kill me. And so he runs her all the way back to the house. 3 more days go by, and she doesn't die. And in fact, she actually begins to feel better. So 15 years earlier, when she began to feel this feeling she was getting, she had gone out for a hike, and she had noticed she had this little mark on the inside of her thigh. It turned out she got bit by a tick that had Lyme disease. And so she was aware that she had Lyme disease. She hops online and she does some research about bee stings. And she discovered an obscure study done in the 1990s in Australia about the toxin in African killer bees and its effects on Lyme disease patients. And they made this hypothesis that a certain amount of bee stings from African killer bees, in theory, could cure Lyme disease, but it was an unethical study and they couldn't do it because it would involve swarming killer bees on a critically ill patient. But Ellie Lobel unintentionally conducted the experiment on herself, and it completely cured her Lyme disease.